What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. So the autumn internationals are coming up soon, and as I did in my little update video, what we're going to be doing is going through all the teams and all their games that are going to be going on across the autumn internationals and talking about pretty much the predictions of how I think the games are going to go, whether it not necessarily be the scores, but who's going to win each game. So the first game to talk about is going to be Scotland. I don't have a Scottish jersey. I thought I'd throw on some sort of tartany blue stuff, anything close I own. So hopefully the Scottish subscribers will be happy with this. So let's talk about Scotland. They had a much better Six Nations than we expected them to have. They didn't get to play any of their summer July internationals, unfortunately, due to a whole sort of COVID outbreak. They had a couple of people off with the Lions. A couple of the people in the Lions doing well, people like Finn Russell in that final game against South Africa, a real nice injection into that team. So there's still some very big positives for Scotland to bring into these autumn internationals. But their first game is going to be kicking off against Tonga. Now, Tonga had a bit of an issue in the summer games. They played against New Zealand and lost, I think, was it 103 or 113 to nil? They look to be struggling in that, and I believe they then lost both games against Samoa, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. So Tonga are struggling a little bit, unfortunately, in the world of rugby. So for me, I think first game, I very much doubt Scotland would put on a first team against Tonga, especially with some of the games they've got coming up later on. They'll probably want to save a couple of players, so they might go for a bit of a second string team against Tonga. But as a prediction-wise for me, first one I'm going to give to Scotland. I believe their attacks increased dramatically over the last sort of 18 months and stuff. They're looking much better, and Tonga have shown a little bit that if you just pressure them with constant attack, they will begin to crumble, and I think Scotland could be taking that one. On to week 2 for Scotland. Scotland versus Australia. Now, of course, we will all remember that game that we had a few years back with the Australia-Scotland and the last-minute penalty and the kicking over the post that all Scottish people want to forget that game ever happened. But it's a really nice game. It's a game we don't really get to see a lot of, unfortunately, Scotland versus Australia. It's quite a fun game to watch. Both teams really go for it. No one really holds anything back. This is a game I'm going to be really looking forward to, especially with some of the games Australia have got going on. You know, they're playing a lot of big teams this year in terms of their autumn internationals, so not going to be messing around with them. So I think Scotland versus Australia could be actually quite a tight-knit one. I actually wonder whether Australia would put on a starting team. Maybe they wouldn't. I'm not sure. Maybe they would want to save it for a little bit. They've got other big games along the way. They've got Wales. They've got England. Maybe they wouldn't go full strength against Scotland, but from what we saw in the July internationals against France, they didn't mess about. They chucked on a lot of the big boys when they could do, so maybe they'll go full strength team. Again, Scotland, this will be a tough one for them. Australia's defence is probably a lot better than you would say than Tonga's, so they'll be able to defend a little bit better. They certainly let themselves down a little bit in a couple of the games against France in the July internationals, but I think that Australia team, especially when we saw it with the Coriobetti red card, they definitely come out fighting strong. So Scotland versus Australia, going to be a tighter one, I reckon. But as a prediction, I'm going to give it to Australia. On to game 3 versus South Africa. Now this will be a really big game for everyone to watch. This game could be the decision maker of who goes on in the World Cup. They're both paired in the same pool stage along with Ireland. So big game here. This is a game that Scotland will want to target and want to win. They've probably got it in them to be able to beat Ireland in their current position where they are. If they really push for it, they didn't manage to do it in the Six Nations. I did a review for that game. They didn't manage to pull that one off. But against South Africa, it's a bit of a different animal in terms of the defensive rate. You won't be looking to be winning scrums or mauls potentially against the South African team. We saw how good South Africa were against the Lions when it came to those sort of set piece areas and just not letting up on any sort of pressure. Scotland could struggle in those certain areas, so it might come down to kicking, and I would probably say Finn Russell, not necessarily the best percentage kicker. They do, of course, have in the wings people like Adam Hastings and stuff, so their percentage kicking could increase if they get some of the fly halves in. Finn Russell and Stuart Hogg and Duhan van der Merwe, all these lads have played South Africa now in that Lions tour, and they really struggled to get going in certain areas. Finn Russell, for me, was the standout Scottish player in those South Africa games when playing for the Lions. Gonna be a really tight game. I think this one will just be aggression versus defence. I think South Africa will hold out, and if they can hold out past that sort of 40-50 minute marker solidly defensively, that's where you begin to see the Mapimpies, the Cheslin Colbys, Dialende, all these big players. Once players hit that 60 minute marker, you can't afford to let up. They will explode and run over you. So Gonna be a tough one. I think I'm gonna call as my prediction here. I'm gonna give this one to South Africa. And the final game for Scotland in this autumn internationals is going to be against Japan. Now, this was a game we got to see in the 2019 World Cup, and what a game that was. I remember that one. I remember absolutely screaming at the TV in that one. Brilliant, brilliant match. Two very evenly based teams, especially when it came to that World Cup. They really went for it. Both teams had a lot to show off, and Japan have really stepped up in the last 4 or 5 years, have gone from this very sort of second tier 2 nation to really pushing the boundaries. People have asked for them to get involved with the Six Nations. People are asking for them to be involved in more championships because their level is stepping up. And Scotland have got a lot to prove. We saw the Japan-Ireland game in the summer internationals as well, and they're looking good. They are looking like they're pretty solid. Ireland probably didn't perform the best in that game, but Japan really looking good. And when they get going, they've had a couple of players drop out or retired. I probably should say more in the last year or so. So there's certainly people missing. They'll probably be a bit more rusty, I would say, than Scotland coming into this, having done. Although saying that, they did miss a lot of their summer games, didn't they, Scotland? So maybe they won't be more rusty. Maybe this could be quite an evenly based game. But I think redemption for the World Cup game that they had in 2019, I think my prediction for this one, I'm going to give to Scotland, and we'll see how we get on. I could be made to eat my own words there, though. And there we have it, guys. So that is going to be my predictions for the Scotland Autumn International Games. Of course, this is a month before the teams have even been named. So, as people tend to do with my prediction videos, they tend to come back in 6 months' time and say, how could I possibly get that wrong? I'll probably get a lot of these wrong. Throughout all the videos that we're going to be doing, we are going to be doing one for all of the teams, or at least covering all of the games with as many teams as I can do. So make sure you subscribe to the channel just to keep up to date with all those videos as they come out. But yeah, hopefully these predictions will be sort of in line, but we'll have to wait and see what teams get announced, what players get injured along the way, how do other games affect each other's games. Will sorts of viruses maybe stop some of the games happening? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But if you've enjoyed this video today, guys, make sure you drop this video a like. And like I said, I am going to be doing one of these for all of the games covered, so make sure you subscribe to the channel just to keep up to date with all the videos as they come out. And make sure you drop down in the comments, how do you think Scotland are going to get on in this autumn internationals? Do you reckon they'll win every game, lose every game, win some, lose some? Drop it down there. I like seeing what other people have to say about some of their teams. I hope you all enjoyed today, guys. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.